Metro 2! Metro Last Light, or Metro 2, or Metro 2035, or Metro 2033 2, is the direct follow-up to Metro 2033, the widely beloved atmospheric and thematic masterclass, and the greatest Moscow bombed-out sewer survival adventure ever put to software. And like any worthy sequel, Last Light aims to be bigger and better than its big brother in almost all aspects. A deeper, more intricate story, more characters with more depth to them than ever, more guns to shoot, and plenty of new and varied locations to explore both in and above the ever-degrading Metro. And this expanded scope is apparent right from the get-go, as we start the game with a cutscene, giving our guy Artyom Lesnitsky a proper backstory, as in 2033, Artyom is pretty much a blank slate for the player to self-insert into, and he would be shaped by the player's actions throughout the game, motivated by the general desire to protect his station from the Dark Ones, and he also has a mysterious connection to the Dark Ones that never really got explained. But now, Artyom is really coming into his own as an independent character, and now has firmly established origins, motivations, regrets, and hopes for the future. As in 2033, all we knew about Arty was that he lived in exhibition, was 24 years old, had a father who stepped up, and he wished to explore the world beyond his station, admiring guys like Hunter. But now, we get some real Artyom lore. In the cutscene, Artyom recounts a story where as a child, he convinced two of his friends to sneak into the Botanical Gardens station and open the sealed door to the surface, hoping to get a glimpse of the surface they've gone pretty much their whole lives without seeing. Artyom has a special bond with the Botanical Gardens, as it holds his last memories of the world before it all went to poo-poo. Artyom wasn't born in the Metro, you see. He was born on the surface, and on the day the Third World War started in obliterated Moscow, Artyom and his mother decided to take a little day trip via Metro to the Botanical Gardens, which allowed them to quickly retreat back into the Metro, sparing them the fate of becoming charred skeletons from nuclear hellfire. Artyom tells us that that day still torments him, though, as he remembers all the minute details of the day, like the feel of the air on his skin, the smells of the natural, non-irradiated surface, and the taste of some ice cream that he got. But out of all the things he recalls, he can't remember the most important thing, that being his own mother's face, as Artyom can only remember her as a vague and blurry woman, and she died shortly after they fled into the Metro, leaving only this foggy visage where her face should be. And after getting past the new railcar-themed main menu and picking your difficulty, we get another cutscene, which reveals how the Dark Ones got into the Metro in the first place, as when Artyom and his pals opened up the door to the Botanical Gardens, they kind of forgot to close it back up, which let the Dark Ones just stroll right on in, which eventually led to the series of events in the first game, which Artyom was responsible for, but he bucked up and he fixed his mess, so it's all good. And we take control of assumedly Artyom, sitting guard in a dank Metro tunnel, when an alarm goes up, and the guards down the tunnel get neutralized by the Dark Ones, who appear and conjure into solaces, who after being shot, turn into humans, and we even stab one right through the head, only to then realize that we just gave one of our guard buddies a spontaneous lobotomy with our trench knife, before a Dark One appears and big burrows Artyom by putting his massive bulbous alien hand on his shoulder, which flashbangs him back to reality, with Khan shaking us up from our Dark One PTSD nightmare. Khan tells us that he's made an incredible discovery at the ruins of the Dark One's hive, quickly revealing to us that the bad ending where we mass barbecue the Dark One population was the canon ending of Metro 2033. Khan tells us that he was snooping around their obliterated hive, and he spotted a living Dark One, and he urges us to go find it and speak to it, as Artyom still has the unique connection to the Dark Ones. And we go to speak with Miller, our Spartan boss, to go get permission, as Artyom is now a fully fledged Spartan soldier, now living in the restored D6 bunker. The Spartans seem to be doing pretty well in their new home. There's Spartans all over the place doing their daily tasks and training, and we get an overview on items from the Spartan Quartermaster here, where he explains gas masks, medkits, money bullets, guns, and enemy types, and all the items you'd ever fucking need. Now, Metro 2033 and Last Light redos are extremely similar games. Pretty much the same game, in fact. As 2033 Redo uses the Last Light engine, so gas masks, medkits, visuals, items, shooting, looting, currency, and shops are all functionally identical to their 2033 counterparts, with the only differences being the new weapon types, and new armored enemy human types, and some new mutant types. Last Light has a pretty sizable arsenal, adding weapons like the new low-life pistol, shotgun pistol, new rifles like the little AK AKSU, the big AK RPK, Saiga shotgun, grenade-launching Medved, the Apocalypse minigun Gatling, and the new sniper rifle weapon type being the biggest new addition to the weapons, adding long-range, heavy-hitting sticks to Artyom's arsenal. And that's on top of all the weapons found in 2033 like the Gatling Azbat shotgun and more. And they're all great new additions to Artyom's potential loadouts, and I really got a kick out of the sniper rifles, especially while fighting mutants like the demons, as the high damage and my elite PC aim had me skeet shooting these guys out of the sky, and one-tapping distant goons with maximum efficiency. And these weapons reflect a more action-focused design of Last Light, as the game contains more firefights and encounters than in 2033, even having some honest-to-God boss fights that I'll discuss when we get to them. But the combat and gunplay still work pretty well, albeit still a bit dated feeling. And the new weapons just make it even more robust, with more ways to dish death than ever before. So we head to meet with Miller and Khan and Ullman, and while we ride up those sweet Soviet-styled spiral elevators, we hear some gossip about a Spartan named Lesnitsky, who apparently may have betrayed the Spartan Order, as after a guard shift at the D6 lab, the lab was found ransacked and Lesnitsky had vanished, potentially taking God knows what out of that lab. Khan then gives us a rundown on the ending of the last game and the destruction of the Dark Ones, spitting more sage wisdom than he realizes, as he theorizes that the Dark Ones may have not been so bad, and they may have only been trying to communicate with us, and that atomizing their freaky-ass nest may have been a horrible mistake. But with one confirmed to still be alive, and Artyom still retaining his unique connection to the Dark Ones, all hope may not yet be lost. And we then meet with Miller, where Khan tells Miller about his Dark One sighting. And Miller is the exact opposite of Khan on the Dark Ones. Whereas Khan desperately wants to rescue and commune with the last Dark One, Miller has a more Imperium of Man approach to the Dark Ones, and gets angry at just the mention of a living one, wanting to murder it expeditiously, still believing them to be humanity's greatest threat. Khan then says, "Please, can me and Artyom go find it?" And Miller agrees, but he says he'll send his smoking hot daughter Anna with us to act as our sniper, who will Chris Kyle that Dark One if we spot it. Khan argues with Miller about killing the Dark One, and tells Artyom that this may be his only chance of forgiveness after being escorted out. But Miller and Anna seem dead set on murking the last Dark One, but with no other options, we agree and head on out. We chat with our new partner Anna, who comes off pretty aggressive right out the gate towards poor Artyom, and talks about destroying the Dark Ones while seething with rage.
I wish I had been up in that tower myself to see
the missiles fall and watch them burn in their nests.
But Artyom just mews and ignores her jawing, and we take one of those pristine metro trains and hop out to walk through some awesome-looking maintenance halls and overgrown sewers, burning through these thick-ass cobwebs with our lighter. And we then make it to the surface after another classic Metro ladder mooning session, and the surface is looking a bit different from how we left it in Metro 2033. It seems that nuclear winter is finally over, and nuclear spring has sprung. And we can even see the sun shining through the clouds, which has melted away the ice to give way to new plant growth and life, and flocks of mutant birds scatter in the distance, showing us that this beyond fucked world may have actually begun to heal a little. And I really like this new vibe to the surface levels, and how its spring vibes of life, warmth, and renewal juxtaposes with the Metro's worsening situation and the threat of a massive and disastrous conflict looming. Hope still remains, but we'll have to fight for it. We then progress through the ruins of the Dark One nest, fighting off attacking Watchmen gang squads just like old times. And I trek through the puddly and wet ground, and I find myself wiping my gas mask off way more than I ever did in 2033, as I kind of forgot there was a mechanic in that game, as the blood splatters and other gamer gunk you got on your mask usually wasn't too obstructive, and I'll usually just wait for it to clean itself. But Last Light seems to make your mask way dirtier and harder to see through when it's splattered, which you clean by pressing G, where Artie uses his magic cleaning hand to give you your sight back, which feels satisfying to do with some nice sound effects and animations. And we eventually find the Dark One, a small child one, and he's kind of cute. He kind of looks like a little alien monkey climbing around like that. Also, were these Dark Ones reproducing and banging like that? They seem to be like Ken dolling it down there in their pelvic region. So maybe they're doing some sort of whacked out Mass Effect style mind sex to have kids or something. I need to get my head out of the fucking gutter. So we pursue this little monkey child, and eventually we corner it and grab it. But seeing its alien bug face sends Artyom into a vision, which shows the destruction of the Dark Ones via the child's perspective, who managed to survive the missile strike by simply being away from the nest at the time of the attack. And when we wake up, the baby Dark One is caged up by Nazis, who took over the nest while we were sleeping, taking Artyom captive as well. And we wake up in a Nazi cell with another prisoner and two communists. The guards interrogate the first man, who was captured for being a suspected mutant, which is a big no-no for these groypers. So in order to test his mutie status, they bust out the skull measure to see if the guy should live or die. Looks like a modern-day Twitter argument. Well, his skull fails the test, and he's executed. And one of the Reds is executed too, but the second Red agrees to talk. But later, not right now. And the Nazi officer turns his attention to us, But then the communist attacks the other guard, and we help him murk this cartoon villain. And now the Spartans and communists aren't on the greatest of terms, but Artie and this other guy seem to make a good team. And this guy doesn't seem to be a total iconoclastic freak about communism, so we stick together to escape. And this is Pavel, and by all means, he seems to be a pretty cool dude. He's got this natural charisma to him. And I really like how he intersperses his Russian phrases into his speech, like his tak-tak-tak ticks and his various suka bliats. It gives him some pretty strong characterization in a pretty short amount of time.
But I say fuck that. No, fuck that. The grunts stick together, huh? Давай. Okay, так. Looks like we cleared it. Ah, блядь. Tough luck, didn't even budge, huh? Так. Now listen. Pretend you're a little fucking mouse.
What?
Get down, don't make any sudden moves.
Pavel gives us a sort of overview of the stealth mechanics in the game, like sticking to the shadows, avoiding enemy line of sight, and using throwing knives for silent rage takedowns.
What kind of joke is that? Get an airlock!
And showing you that your blue light on your watch indicates whether you're visible or not, and using lethal or non-lethal takedowns as we avoid the Nazi guards and searchlights. And it's a much better tutorial for stealth mechanics than in 2033. But like Metro 2033, I saw the stealth as nothing more than a suggestion, and I continued to just let that shit rip through Nazis, Reds, and mutants non-stop. Centrist Terminator Artyom is back, baby. But it seems foregoing stealth completely will pretty much lock you out of the good ending from all the bad karma hits you take from killing scores of people. So maybe don't do what I did, and take a more silent, methodical approach. So we sneak and shoot our way through the Nazi guards, and escape this huge Metro concentration camp. And while we slink through a pipe, we can overhear two Reich guards talking about selling a creature to a Hansa trader, that being our little dark one in question, who the guards sold to the trader for a modest 200 bullets. So the child dark one could be really anywhere in the Metro by now. So we continue following Pavel, and we even end up right in the middle of a Reich rally led by the Führer himself, who talks about the discovery of the D6 bunker, and he claims that there's enough food, medicine, and weapons in the bunker to supply the whole Reich for 100 years. And the packed room and great lighting effects on the Führer at the end of the tunnel is a really great set piece and world building moment. And it really flexes this game's graphical capabilities. It's pretty crowded in here. And as we reach the front of the crowd, right before we're able to make our escape, an officer interrupts the speech to tell the crowd that there was a jailbreak at the camp, and that 2 prisoners have escaped. So Pavel lets his thing go off in the crowded room, and we rush to make our escape. Much like the escape from the Reds in 2033, except we mostly just run forward. And this dude Pavel is one tough bastard too. Absolutely sauced on these guys. Damn. And we escape on a rail car together, heading towards Theater Station. We soon dismount and proceed on foot, and Pavel gets captured by Reich goons after trying to use a large pipe like Mario.
Wait here while I look around.
Hey! A spy! Grab him!
And then I shoot my way through the base in the game's first large and proper gunfight. And Last Light is showing us more emphasized human combat here, as the room we're fighting in is pretty large and complex with multiple floors, and there's a pretty large amount of enemies in here to take out. And I found it pretty fun to just blast through this entire zone. Also, this game will throw more explicit moral choices at you, notably these surrendering enemies, like when you catch this guy off guard reading in bed. I guess he didn't hear all the loud bangs and men hollering bloody murder one room over. But you have the option to spare this unarmed goon, or just murk him for no reason. And I gave him a little knuckle sandwich, and moved on. Moments like these are much better implementations of the moral system, as the choice is very apparent and clear, on top of just being a fun little detail to catch this guy completely unprepared. Now Artyom could just leave Pavel to his fate. His only true goal is to capture the baby Dark One, but Artyom feels indebted to Pavel for saving him, and it feels only right to return the favor. And we soon find Pavel in a prison cell after venting Batman Arkham style. Lucky us. But he soon gets escorted away to be executed. And I start another firefight after getting spotted early on accident. And it's another pretty big and fun fight, and we start running into armored enemies for the first time. A tankier version of the regular human enemies, who wear massive clunky looking suits of scrap metal welded together, making them extra resistant to bullets. And the best way to take them out is to land a few headshots to knock off their helmets, and one tap their exposed melon for the kill, which was no problem for my god tier PC aim. And I also really enjoyed the armor's destruction effects when you miss those headshots and hit the chest or arms, which coupled with the dynamic animations where armored enemies will stumble and react to getting shot, we get a pretty robust enemy that you gotta invest a few bullets into to fully take down. And I really enjoyed fighting these guys. It makes the human firefights even more dangerous. But once we wipe out this Nazi garrison, we find Pavel about to get lynched in this dark tunnel, and he almost croaks, but we cut him free and we escape into the Catacombs. And as we progress, the lights are cut in the tunnel, So we have to make our way through these awesomely spooky spider-infested tunnels with our best buddy Pavel. And these spiders have gotten a buff since Metro 2033, and they're no longer the light allergic two-pump chumps that they were in that game. The spiders are now more heavily armored, and shooting them outright won't do much. Instead, you have to shine your flashlight on them until they flip over, and then blast their soft underbelly to score the kill. It makes the spiders much more of a genuine threat with some solid strategy behind them, rather than the afterthought that they were in 2033. And Artyom and Pavel need to do some parkour climbing and elite teamwork just to escape from these freaks. But once past their disgusting ballsack nests, we have to take a quick detour on the surface to finally reach Theater Station, which is accessible via a crashed plane that fell on the theater when the war broke out. And we soon reach the plane, and after a little reunion with our classic double-barreled shotgun, we explore the wreckage. But while on the plane, we start experiencing some ghostly chicanery, as flashes of the plane's passengers while they were still alive appear before us. And when we reach the cockpit, we get flashed back in time, and we see the Great War kick off from the plane's perspective, the pilots screaming and pleading for their lives as the plane crashes down into the fiery hell of Moscow, in this awesome yet insanely horrifying scene. God damn, I did not expect to experience a violent plane crash in this game, especially a ghostly, time-warped one. But it works, due to just how harrowing it is. Jesus. Even Pavel gets completely zooted by this magical ghost plane, as he thinks he's also on the plane as it crashes. And he takes off his gas mask because he thinks he's huffing in smoke from the plane. And we put his mask back on him and bring him back to reality before he suffocates in the Moscow shit air. And then we immediately leave this cursed ghost plane. But we get set upon by demons and a horde of watchmen, and we flee to the theater entrance, much like when we reach Market Station with Bourbon, and we are saved by some armored flame troopers.
Like a stroll through the park, huh?
Haha, classic Pavel, you scoundrel. But we shake off this hellish, ghostly geek session, and we head to the theater with Pavel, who tells us that we'll head for the Red Square station, and then Pavel will vouch for us to help us get us back to Polis, communist honor. The theater station is pretty sweet as far as metro stations go, having great details like this bar, criers advertising the shows here, and a guy doing shadow puppet shows, and some really great lighting effects all throughout the place. And we relink with Pavel and enter the theater itself, where we even get to watch a show, a stripper version of the Rockettes, I guess. They all kick and sync to the can-can on piano, jiggle physics and all. It's another great little world-building moment that expands the world of Metro, but Artyom isn't moved by these bouncing boobs, and we proceed on, as Pavel teases Artyom about getting no bitches.
Artyom, looks like you're a bit woman-hungry, huh? Well, yes.
But before we leave, Pavel decides to sit down for a toast with Artyom, where he starts talking about his life as a communist and his ideology, saying that men turn into child-slaving cannibals if left to their own devices, and order is required no matter what, and only the communists can provide that order. An out-of-the-blue rant about ideology. I don't like where this is going. Pavel then completely screws Artyom over, and has him arrested by some red thugs. What the hell, man? After all that? After all we've been through? You choose politics over the guy who saved you and you saved a few times over? Bruh. Artyom collapses from a spiked drink before being detained, and we wake up with Pavel escorting us through the heart of the Red Line, which is filled with red soldiers who are training and standing at attendance. And even the red bigwigs are here. Their general secretary, a man named Moskvin, and his second-in-command is here as well, and it seems the Reds are gearing up for something big. Pavel walks us through this large hall, and it's another really awesome world-building moment, much like the Nazi rally hall, showing us the Red soldiers training and posing, with communist slogans and posters all over the walls and ceiling. And Pavel tells us that much like the Nazis, they're after D6, and want to take control of it from the Spartan Order, also believing it to house endless supplies and weapons for them. We then meet the second-in-command, Comrade General Corbett, this sinister as fuck looking guy in a black leather jacket and sporting some grisly scars on his face and a bloodshot evil eye. And I can tell this dude is evil as shit just from the look of him. To his right is that traitor from D6, Lesnitsky, who we see is actually a communist bot. We then get knocked out and taken to the interrogation room, where we get grilled on the baby Dark One. But Secretary General Moskvin and his son interrupt Corbett, and Moskvin starts wailing on us to get us to talk. And that brother should not be sporting a mustache like that if he's a true communist. That's the cut of the ultimate enemy. But Moskvin's brutality freaks out his son Lenya, who runs off after telling his dad to stop being such an asshole. Corbett then injects Artyom with some truth serum, and we get another flashback to when Artyom and his friends went to the surface. After they opened the door, they went outside, and we're almost immediately set upon by watchmen, who are moments from devouring Artyom for lunch, until we're saved by a Dark One, who fends off the watchmen for us, before we snap back to reality, where Corbett tells Pavel to head to a place called Venice, and then to collect the baby Dark One. We then see Lenya, who vents about his dad to us, saying he doesn't want to be anything like his shitty dad, and mentions that he even killed his own brother, the former Secretary General, which will be important later. Lenya, being a class act, then frees us and shows us where to vent out to escape. Incredibly beast, Lenya. Thanks, man. So we vent, and we can listen in on Moskvin and Corbett, which reveals to us that sinister bastard Corbett has full control over Moskvin, and is dead set on a war for D6. Corbett also reveals that he had killed Moskvin's brother to secure his spot as leader of the Red Line, and Corbett is controlling Moskvin through that blackmail. But we continue on heading towards Venice, chasing after Pavel. We then have to shoot our way through a few rooms full of Reds, including this big room with a large train that they're working on. And after Pavel's betrayal and learning the truth of the situation with Corbett, I found it was my moral imperative to kill these fools in some fun firefights. I also executed these poor surrendering workers for no real reason, and this probably nuked my moral score into the dirt. Also, when I reached the end, I got stuck again looking for the way forward, running into another depot, hole-in-the-ground-esque instance of bad direction. Now in Metro 2033, I didn't mention the use of the compass, because I never actually used it myself, as instead, I wanted to find the path forward just through the level design clues alone, and using the compass probably could have saved me some time, so that was my bad in that instance. But here, we have to crawl through this massive fan here, and when I first approached it, the animation to progress through it didn't trigger, so I milled in circles for a while until I tried the fan again, and that time it worked, and Artyom squeezed through it. The fan also has a wall behind its rotor, which looks impassable, so that confused me too, but Artyom moves it out of the way when he passes through it. But confusion aside, we do a bit more shooting against some armored enemy squads. We have to do a vent maze to proceed, and when we complete it and drop down, this armored goon appears, ready to turn us into red glue with his Gatling gun, until he recognizes Artyom, and we recognize him as Andrew the Blacksmith. My man. So we break bread with Andrew, and he brainstorms us another plan to help us relink with the Spartans. Andrew tells us that there's no direct route to Polis, so our best bet is to go above ground and head to their old outpost, the church, and see if we can meet them there. But we still have to head to Venice, and Andrew gives us a sweet-ass gift, a custom railcar that we can actually drive, and it comes with some custom lighting to keep the spiders away. Thanks, Andrew. He and Connor are the true goats of these games for Artyom. Love this guy. This kicks off a pretty large level where we can drive down the tracks and dismount at will to explore for extra gear. And I enjoy these less constricted, more open-ended levels that Last Light is geared towards. It makes the metro feel much larger, and you can fully control the pace of your exploration. So we make it through Spider City here, and even run into another haunted room full of shadow ghosts. That is, until we turn this railcar ride into a roller coaster, and we crash out at the bottom of this hill. But luckily, the cart still drives, so we press on. We then come across a group of twitchy survivors who had fled the Red Line, but half their group was ambushed and captured by tunnel bandits, who we can swoop in and save for some moral point boosts, as we stop and go throughout the tunnels smoking these bandits like a blunt. That is, until we run into this spiked metal turnstile, which destroys our cart for good as we try to pass through it, and we have to proceed on foot. And we reach a shitty makeshift dock and pull a bell rope to get someone to come pick us up, as we fend off a Nassau's gang squad just like old times. I almost miss these guys. And we get picked up by a boatman who can take us to Venice, and along the way, we run into some new water-based mutants, called the Shrimp, who apparently taste great with some beer, but they attack us pretty quickly, and we gotta shoot and QTE them off in a pretty intense fight, and the boatman is absolutely tweaking during all of this. We fend off the Shrimp for good by blowing up a crate full of pipe bombs, and the boatman getting the most out of his cigarette before he has to light the fuse. 3 extra posts before I go! But with the Shrimp blown up, we finally make it to Venice. And the boatman tells us that the Shrimp usually aren't like this, and it seems that they were so pissy because they got riled up by red goons who came in earlier, so Pavel must be close. Venice is another really cool station, getting its name from being flooded due to the ice melt from the nuclear spring on the surface, making Venice a seedy fishing station. And we then proceed into the brothel and spot Pavel in one of the booths. It's almost time to get our lick back. But first, we listen in on his conversation, where he mentions a virus container of some sort that was delivered to Oktyabrskaya station. Oktyabrskaya.
Oktyabrskaya, okay?
They aren't making it fucking easy. But suddenly, woman jump scare, and we gotta muzzle her and hide from Pavel, which she seems to kinda like, but I ignore her immediately and follow Pavel. No time to get freaky. I then shoot past some red soldiers in this warehouse, and we even get to see a glowing mushroom farm back here, and it just looks scrumptious. Don't you just want to eat this every day for the rest of your life? Another great world-building moment though. And we enter a room and get stuck up by Pavel, who reveals that Corbett wants to use the baby Dark One as a weapon by taming it. Somehow. But while Pavel thinks about it, we disarm him and hold him up with our knife instead. And Pavel tells us that the Dark One is close by, in that Oktyabrskaya station he mentioned earlier. But then Venice's one and only guard barges in and gives Pavel a chance to escape. Well shit, we caused a real mess here. But not to worry, the guard knows a way to the surface, which will take us through a swamp. So we suit up and ship out, heading for the church. The swamp is another pretty open-ended level here, as we gotta comb this swamp for gas cans to power a ferry raft, having to search the various structures in the area. But while we search, we get attacked by the Mirelurk Queen from Fallout 4, along with some demons and shrimp for good measure. And I was putting the sniper rifle to good use in this large area, and would even scrap with these stronger versions of the shrimps, who can walk on land and use their claws as shields against your bullets, and you have to flank them, or shoot them after one of their wide swing attacks to actually damage them. And these guys are some real bastards too. Their claw shields can eat most of your bullets insanely easily, and their blocking hitbox is bigger than you'd think. And we even have to fight off this massive green shrimp that's been harassing us the whole level. But luckily, a demon shows up to distract it, and we can take the ferry after we give it some more gas. Night then soon falls as we continue to the church, and we hear Anna's voice calling out to us as we get closer. And we finally relink with our Spartan compatriots, until that damn Mirelurk Queen returns and attacks us, kicking off an honest-to-God boss battle with the damn thing. Which is just alright, and more crusty than anything else, as the shrimp attacks by performing huge sweeping claw attacks, and my strategy was to whip out my 4-barrel shotgun and run in a circle around the thing, and then run up and barrel stuff 4 rounds of buckshot into it before circling back to reload and attack again, and hope I didn't get whacked by its claw arms, and I usually did. And just rinse and repeat until it falls over dead. It almost feels like a turn-based combat game. And this thing is a real juggernaut too, taking dozens of bullets, a few grenades, and backup from Anna and the Spartans. But after doing donuts around this thing for a little while, we gun this thing down for good, and we can enter the church. We finally relink with Anna, who was seemingly warmed up to us, even apologizing for the gardens and us getting captured. She saw my shrimp slaying skills and it got her gushing like a lake. So we take a quick nap, and when we wake up, Anna tells us that we're all going to head out to Oktyabrskaya soon, and we can reach it via the church's catacombs. And we hear a knock on the door, which then promptly blows up, as the red attacks our church base. Lesnitsky taking Anna captive as Artyom watches from beneath some rubble, completely helpless. And we get up some unknown time later, and we have to proceed through the dark and spooky catacombs, which disables our flashlight, forcing us to use our lighter as our only light source. And it's a great stretch of atmospheric gameplay, as we hear ghostly wails and bells, along with inhuman groaning, and we even see more shadow ghosts. Just don't touch them. And we have a Nasala's basket battle, and we proceed into these deep, cavernous ruins, which hold some crumbling ancient ruins of some kind, along with being infested with mutants. And this level is super sweet. It almost feels like an Elder Scrolls dungeon or something with the ancient ruins and old mechanisms that you use. Artyom in his notes has always wondered about the nature of the Moscow underground, as he believes that there's much more than just the metro down there, such as passageways and vaults belonging to the long-gone czars, to even older and more mysterious tunnels lying beneath it all. Maybe Ivan the Terrible's Goon Cave is down here or something. We also run into another new mutant, these wall-grabbing Nasalis-like creatures that blast you with hypersonic screams, ringing out in your ears and damaging you. And they're pretty freaky, and can be pretty hard to spot and gun down. But goddamn, that high-pitched ringing is so goddamn grating. Please die. We even have to take on the most jacked Nasalis I've ever seen in my entire life in another mutant boss battle. But this fight is much less crustier than the shrimp, although I did get scooted around awkwardly by its attacks at times. But now, it's just you and the beast, and you can bait the thing into charging into these stone pillars, on top of just shooting it directly to rack up some damage. And its only real moves are charge and arm swing, so shoot, bait, and let the thing give itself CTE charging into the rock pillars. And once you've damaged it enough, it'll speed charge out of the arena, opening up a new path forward for us, where we can start round 2 with it, where instead of charging, it'll rush you while trying to belly flop you to death. So I loaded my money bullets and pissed fire on it from my AK like it's got gonorrhea, and the thing goes down dead. But the room then cracks and floods shortly after, and Artyom gets sucked through the water right into a tunnel connecting to fuck it. How convenient. As we crawl through the station, we see communist troops detaining and executing people for being infected with a mysterious illness. And it seems that virus container Pavel mentioned has finally come into play. This virus being what Lesnitsky stole from the D6 lab, seemingly deploying it into this unsuspecting station, and then wiping the whole place out under the guise of controlling the epidemic. And we need to know more, and we progress through the amazingly crafted condemned station, offing these red thugs with a vengeance. I even shot this guy so hard he started throwing it back. It seems that Lesnitsky himself is leading this attack, from overhearing some red chatter. And it seems that the Reds are kicking off the war for D6 early by directly attacking this Hansa-affiliated station. We then run into the Turncloak himself, who is holding Anna at knife point, and we find ourselves in an old-fashioned standoff. Lesnitsky tries to justify his actions, saying that he still has honor because he was never actually loyal to Miller in the first place. Typical excuse. But before he can finish his diatribe, I blast him in the head to get him to shut up. But his helmet takes all the damage and it shatters. And he shoves Anna into me, her head shattering my gas mask. This lady has a skull made of lead, goddamn. And this guy Lesnitsky flees stage left. Artyom and Anna then stumble up the stairs behind them, and they collapse right in front of the nearby Hansa station. We then wake up with Anna recovering in a quarantine cell, because as far as we know, we could still be infected with Lesnitsky's mysterious illness, and could die at any time. And Anna worries about the upcoming war for D6, and how it could potentially destroy the entire metro. But Artyom's stone-faced Riz overpowers her fears, and she pops out a singular boob, and they start getting freaky. My guy Artyom is probably mad nervous right now. But thankfully, this disgusting display of premarital sex is over quickly. And good news, it seems that we're virus-free, and we're free to go. But Anna has to stay longer to get her wounds treated. And we pass through this cramped quarantine station, and by listening to this doctor here, we can learn that this virus was actually a form of weaponized Ebola that was designed to kill fast, but become harmless after a short time. So we're good to go, I guess. We eventually run into our favorite magic man, Khan, who tells us to get up off our buns and go after the Baby Dark One right away. And we stock up and head out into the unknown. And the Baby Dark One is still lost to us, but Khan has a magical pond that he thinks could help us. And he tells us about something called the River of Fate, a mysterious body of water in the metro that can seemingly grant wishes. As if a man has a desperate enough wish and enters the river, he may be transported directly to where the wish can be made through his own actions. Alright, Khan. I can accept malevolent shadow ghosts, psychic alien salamander men, and time-warping traumatic vision plane crashes, but a magical river that can teleport you to another location seems a little too ludicrous, even for you. But after fighting off some mutants, we come to the entrance of the river, where we see a phone ringing on the wall. And when we pick it up, Artyom hears his mom on the other end, which freaks him out.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now.
And we soon enter the central cistern of the River of Fate. And we enter it, and we fall into this watery green realm, and we swim to the top of Ostankino Tower at the moment Artyom launched the missiles against the Dark Ones, before being teleported to the Dark One nest to chase the little monkey boy around some more. And then we finally get teleported to the freak show train that the Dark One was sold to, diving headfirst towards a crashing train, before resurfacing out in a different body of water, close to the train that the Dark One is on. Now, I have no idea what just happened, but Khan has vindicated himself yet again, and his magical time-traveling river was no joke. It even showed us where to go to find the Dark One, and spits us out right near the train he's held captive on. Maybe Khan just pours acid and ayahuasca into the river and swims in it to geek out, or something? And he already knew where the Baby Dark One was using his soul trace powers that he used to save Artyom at the library, but this is the first and last time the River of Fate is mentioned or used, so for all intents and purposes, it's a teleporter. We then hop on a cart with Khan and do some fun cart skeet shooting and catch up with the train holding the child Dark One, and we jump on, mowing down the communist troops on board in a pretty high intensity battle. A lot of these fights have some awesome spectacle and settings for them, and I'm feeling super motivated to kill these Reds and rescue my stupid alien chud son, and we soon find the Dark One, and we shake hands. And we then cut back to child Artyom with the Dark One who saved him, who shows him a vision of his mother, and we finally get to see her face, and she and Artyom embrace. It's a very sweet and tender moment, but goddamn the mom's voice acting is incredibly trash. Ass even. She just sounds so disengaged and bored, and it kind of ruins this tender moment.
Artyom, darling, you're so big now.
Mom, I'm scared.
Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of now.
We then cut back, and Artyom tells the Dark One that he's all alone now, and the Dark One replies that he's not alone, but the first, finally revealing how he obtained his Dark One connection, as Dark Ones have the ability to form a bond with those they touch. But it seems by the time Metro 2033 rolled around, the Dark Ones decided to mindfuck the humans instead of creating bonds with them. And we then cut back to Artyom and the Child Dark One, the roles reversed from the Vision, and the Child Dark One then passes out from all the psychic stress, and Artyom scoops him up and carries him away, unable to kill the child, due to his compassion for the kid's situation and his regret for nuking his entire species. And we bring him topside, as Dark Ones struggle to breathe when not in irradiated shit air, and the kid sticks by us as we progress, giving us a little bit of bullet time and x-ray vision to help us fight off some attacking mutants. He also talks to us throughout, as the kid learns more about Artyom, even throwing on some rags to be more like him. And he's pretty cute, and the child voice acting is a step up from the weird-ass adult voices they had in 2033, although it's still not super great.
You and the other people are strong. You can kill anyone.
We then have to cross this massive bridge, taking out a platoon of Nasalises and wall-crawler bastards who just love to jerk back and forth around the pillars they attach themselves to, making killing these guys a real pain in the ass coupled with their annoying high-pitched ring attacks. They're by far the most irritating mutants in the entire game, no question. We even get to ride on this huge zipline until a demon trolls Artyom and breaks it, causing us to crash back down. But the Dark One kid distracts it, and we move on to the next level. And we shoot through some communist surface squads, and the Child Dark One will highlight enemies for us, giving us some nice wall hacks that we could use to sneak by these guys more efficiently. But too bad I love violence. It's just too fun to shoot these guys up. And we eventually corner Lesnitsky, who was leading the squads up here. And Artyom and the Dark One grab onto him, and we see Lesnitsky's POV as he steals the virus, gets his orders from Corbett, captures Anna, and at the end, we learn that Corbett had commanded Pavel to handle Red Square, giving us vital intel on the communist movements. And we then have the option to kill or spare Lesnitsky, who by all means deserves to die a horrific death, as he massacred an entire neutral station just to test a bioweapon. But, thirsty for those moral points, and not wanting to set a bad example for the kid, I decide to spare him as we head for Red Square. And the Reds' plan is thus: attend the Polis Peace Conference as a front, but Pavel will mobilize at the Red Square and will attack D6 while the big shots are at the conference. And we progress through Moscow, seeing plenty of ghosts and flashback visions that teach the kid about humanity's devastation. And pay close attention to the kid and what he says in this level, as you can lose plenty of moral points by attacking the mutants he points out, like this mother demon and her baby, and other Watchmen mutants he says are scared or hungry, as he can read the emotions of most living things. But look, I didn't really want to kill the demon, but it attacked me first, and that kid will suffer without its mother, and it may come looking for revenge if it does live. So I had to do this. I had to blast automatic shotgun bullets into his face. You gotta understand. And it's a really cool level that shows the development of the Child Dark One learning about the world from the ghosts and Artyom's own actions. But the aggressive mutant AI docked me a few moral points when I was forced to fire back, and killing mutants should never be a moral negative, in my opinion. Especially the beastly ones. I think having one or two less flying alligator tiger dragons in this world would be a net positive. But regardless, we arrive at the Red Square, and the ruins of the place look really sweet too. I'm a sucker for blowing out ruins of famous landmarks in these post-apocalyptic games. But a massive, powerful storm soon descends, and we have to hide from the massive killer wind gusts. And we then enter a tunnel full of dark, shadowy hands, and we get restrained. But we get saved by the Dark One, who leads us through seemingly hell itself, a huge tunnel of inky black corpses reaching out from the wall, complete with a stream of blood on the ground. What the fuck? But we pass through, and the hands vanish behind us, back to whatever layer of hell they came from. Now this would be shocking in, say, Metro 2033, running through a tunnel of the trapped and damned souls of those who died from the war. But we've already experienced so much paranormal shit so far in this game, Artyom isn't even fazed by it anymore, and he takes it on the chin. And we then catch up to Pavel shacked up in some ruins, and now is truly the time to get our lick back from this bald bastard. And we light up the red goons who attack us, getting some wall hacks from the kid to help us manage the firefight. But we wipe them out and move to take out Pavel. But be careful when firing at him. He can jiggle peek these corners better than any CS pro, and he can melt your health if you don't hit him quick enough, which I made sure of by mag dumping my Gatling shotgun at him, which incapacitates Pavel, and we give him a little Dark One mind invasion as a punishment for his betrayal. From his vision, we get the full details of Corbett's plan. He wants to take control of D6 as their headquarters, and they will use the virus to wipe out any stations that try to oppose them, which would hopefully, finally, achieve that coveted global communism. For real this time. We also learned that Pavel was to use a secret entrance to D6 via the Kremlin to assault and capture D6 while the conference was going on. And bada bing, bada boom, Lenin's goals will finally be achieved. We then wake up with Pavel in the damn soul hell dimension, with Pavel being pulled in by the arms. And I decided to free him to try and shore up any moral points I could get, as despite everything, we still want to show the kid forgiveness above all. And deep down, we know Pavel is still our friend at the end of the day, and he's just doing what he does because of his ideology, despite how misguided it is. As when we fight him, the Dark One reveals to us that he's only sad and nervous about fighting us, and holds no real malice towards Artyom. So we mask him up, and we leave him to his fate. And we then take a stroll through the dark and spooky botanical gardens, until we run into a pair of mutant bear cubs, who get pressed by some watchmen. But then their massive mutant bear mother appears to scare off the watchers. Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna have a mutant bear boss battle, which starts very soon after. The bear will chase you and whack you for some huge damage, and you have no real choice besides to pretty much run away until the beast gets swarmed by a gang squad of watchmen, which will reveal its vulnerable back to you that you can shoot up for big damage. And just keep repeating that loop until the bear decides it's had enough, and it charges away like the chunky Nasalis boss. And that's that. Cool mutant, but another pretty mediocre fight overall. And we see the bear wounded and vulnerable, and some watchmen move in for the kill. But I take these kill stealers down, and let the bear go free with its cubs. Pure class from Artyom. And we then reach a tunnel, where Miller and Connor are waiting for us. Hey, what's up, fellas? Good to see you again. And we enter with the Dark One, who disguises himself as a human child. I guess they can transmogrify on top of being able to turn invisible, and this spooks Miller a little bit.
What the fuck?
And Khan convinces Miller not to shoot the poor kid dead, and we enter a vision with Khan, and we get a full explanation on Artyom's resistance to the Dark Ones. Apparently, it was given to him to act as a medium between the humans and the Dark Ones, which in hindsight, wasn't exactly a great plan. And we also see this huge door in the vision, which is a sealed door that's still locked up in D6. And inside are a group of snoozing Dark Ones, still alive and trapped in the bunker, waiting to be freed. Well, that's convenient. Good thing Artyom is no longer a confirmed mass genocider. And it also opens up the question to if the Dark Ones were a creation of the war and its subsequent fallout, or if they were created somehow before the war and later escaped. But we'll never truly know the answer. All we know is that they got a squad of Dark Ones locked up in the D6 basement, and we gotta go free them. We then head to Polis in the conference with Miller, Khan, and the kid. And Miller is still huffing the copium that this conference will work and prevent a war for D6, not realizing that Moskvin is Corbett's bottom bitch. We then head through Polis where the Reds and Nazis are waiting outside the conference chamber, and I'm surprised they haven't tried beating each other to death yet. And we crash the conference and let the Dark One approach Moskvin. And this sends us into his mind labyrinth, a hallway full of communist posters and openable doors. And by opening the doors, we can learn all of Moskvin's dirty little secrets. And we learn that Corbett had been playing him like a fiddle from the jump, being the one to convince him that his brother was planning on eliminating him, which wasn't true, which led Moskvin to poison his vodka, and Corbett used this knowledge to control Moskvin, lest his dishonorable kinslaying comes to light. And the red doors and endless communist hallway was a super cool way to convey this backstory to us. I actually really liked it, and it stands out in my memory just how unique it is. But Moskvin was hollering all these inconvenient truths out loud during his geek session, and cat's out of the bag now. So Moskvin tells everyone that Corbett is assaulting D6 as we speak, where he will obtain the means of production for the virus. And if he does, the Metro is cooked. And he then walks off in shame. And I have no idea why he would trust such a clearly evil-looking guy. But no matter. We need to haul ass on over to D6 and stop the Reds before it's all over. And Artyom gets geared up in some heavy armor of his own, and the baby Dark One leaves to bust his family out of bunker prison. And we arrive and Miller gives a very brief speech. And we see a communist train car blow up the barricaded door, and they all charge in. And this is one awesome-ass scene. And it feels like the entire Metro is on the line here. Even Khan is ripping that AK like a Spartan troop. Once the first wave is gunned down, rail tanks flank us from the side. We have to disable the tank by shooting the parts that glow red on it, while avoiding the train's gunner that will make you jitter more than the bullets actually hurt you. It's kind of crazy. And once the tank is scrapped, the Reds mount another assault, and we can pick up a Gatling gun to turn these Reds into red mist. And they even deploy a shield wall of troops guarding a heavy flame-throwing soldier, who fall one by one as they get closer. But killing the flamer will blow them all up, and it's one hell of a battle. And the spectacle here is pretty awesome with all the friendly and Foley guns going off, and the massive explosions that are going on everywhere. There's a real sense of desperation and death here. But once we mow down this wave, we realize that we're simply outnumbered, and the Reds crash their huge armored train right through our defenses. And Miller's leg is half blown off, and Corbett arrives to lord and evilly gloat over us. And Miller gives us the command to blow the place up, and I activate the bomb, as Artyom obliterates all the Reds, D6, Miller, and himself to stop the war in one big fiery sacrifice. And after the explosion, we cut to Anna talking to her and Artyom's quarantine sex baby, where she tells him about Artyom's heroic sacrifice and that the Dark Ones have made it out, hopefully to return one day. And the credits roll as the Dark One child walks off with the rest of his family. And this again is the bad ending. Shit! In the good ending, the baby Dark One appears right before Artyom Hezbollahs himself, and the other Dark Ones appear to disarm the Reds and fry their minds with 3,000 hours of talk to us psychically blasted into their minds. And we get an epilogue for all the main characters. Miller was wounded, but he became head of the Polis guards. Khan disappeared, probably using his magical river to teleport somewhere a little bit nicer than this place. And Ullman died in the fighting. Damn, poor guy. And the child says goodbye to Artyom, but Artyom says they will meet again. And the child walks off into the sunset, as Artyom finally obtains the forgiveness he's worked for this entire journey. This being the true canon ending to Last Light. Now I do feel like Last Light does improve the moral system a little bit, as the moral point gains and losses are seemingly more explicit and apparent, and the game gives you more options to make choices, like sparing or killing Pavel, Lesnitsky, and surrendering enemies, releasing the Nazi prisoners, saving people from the bandits, and listening to the baby Dark One, and avoiding mutants when possible, and saving the bear after defeating it, and so on. But it's still far from perfect, and it still suffers from the same issues 2033 had, because doing a combat-focused playthrough will seemingly condemn you to the bad ending, unless you really know what to do and where to scrounge for all those extra points, by listening to all NPC conversations, donating money anytime you can, and just going down the wiki list of everything you can do to get your score up. And you still have no way of telling what your current moral point score is, which I feel will go a long way in motivating the player to change their ways before it's too late. And in the first video, I failed to mention that there are indeed subtle visual triggers when you gain or lose a point, which looks like a slight white flash accompanied by some ghostly noises when gaining points.
I'll handle the Politburo.
And a dark bluish gray flash for losing points. But these are incredibly subtle, and if you aren't familiar with the mechanic, you think it was just some extra ghostly phenomena or Artyom having a moment or something. And a lot of times, I didn't even recall noticing the flashes. They're that easily missable. And an icon pop-up would probably serve much better without any hits to immersion whatsoever. Also, for some moral choices, like killing Lesnitsky, it seemed like the way more moral choice to just kill him there and now, instead of letting this traitorous mass murderer live to fight another day. But that's a whole 9-hour discussion on moral relativism we don't need to get into. And what the devs say goes, and I can't argue that here. But besides these hiccups I still have with the morality system, I found the story in Last Light to be much more interesting and compelling than 2033, and getting to see more of the metro like Venice, the theater, and exploring the ruins of the Red Square and the mysterious ancient buried ruins below are some really awesome locations for me. And being able to get up close and personal with the major factions, like seeing the Nazi rally in the prison, and the communist training hall and all their facilities, and attending the Polis Council are great moments of world building that expand the world of Metro to a pretty great deal. And the main story of Artyom pursuing the baby Dark One, getting to learn more about their abilities and thoughts, forging a strong bond with the kid, and discovering the origin of Artyom's unique connection to the Dark Ones through his backstory, and ultimately redeeming himself for air frying them at the end of 2033 by saving the kid and the D6 Dark Ones, and letting them go free to forge their own future was a great arc for our protagonist. And characters like Pavel are great additions to the cast. And Pavel's betrayal felt like a genuine gut punch, as he chooses ideology over your friendship, which is bolstered by his fun dialogue and mannerisms that make you like him even more. And even in the bad ending, if you get it, it still doesn't feel like a waste or a disappointment. And Artyom sacrificing himself to defeat Corbett and his goons tracks with Metro's tone and themes pretty well. Although it does have its story hiccups. I thought the magical teleporting river was a bit too Deus Ex Machina-y, even for me. And it kind of felt like the devs were taking a paranormal shortcut to finally get Artyom to rescue the baby Dark One after some extended waffling with the communists, as the river doesn't require a price from Artyom at all, and he gets to use it free of charge outside of a spooky phone call, and it appears only when it's wholly convenient, and it immediately disappears from the story completely after using it. And Artyom and Anna's relationship wasn't very compelling to me. But besides those issues, the story here is interlocking, expansive, and pretty interesting to learn more about the factions, as well as the Dark Ones themselves. And most importantly, Artyom really comes into his own here, feeling more like an individual character with his choices, rather than a meat vehicle for the player to take command of with little background to learn about. And throw in some more guns to play around with, larger, more open-ended levels to explore and shoot through, more mutants to fight, making it so the game can actually mix it up with its mutants and not have to resort to throwing Nassau's gang squads at you over and over again. Bigger, more dynamic human gunfights have some impressive spectacle at them at times, especially at the end, and even a few boss battles for good measure. And Last Light is pretty much an improvement all across the board from 2033, outside of some atmospheric moments like the Cursed Station or the ghostly tunnels of 2033, which 2033 excelled at incredibly well. And Last Light is just bigger, stronger, and more intricate than 2033 ever was, and he completes his Metro package in the first leg of Artyom's story incredibly well. And I'd probably recommend this game over 2033 if you were to only play one for some odd reason. It's just a great game overall. But with that, we can move on to Metro Exodus. One day. Because that's all I got for you today. And if you're still here, thank you very much for watching. And I love you very dearly. More content soon. Goodbye.